and give them some kind of accountability, I'm all for it.
But I like the way that it worked out. That was enhancing the human being that was there, because I do actually believe, you know, that you don't get to lay off a pitch that's a quarter inch outside on 3-2. It's like that's close enough to hit. You know, and you can't expect that to be a thing. Like, and I believe that you can call it a strike even though it's a ball. You know, if the computer says a ball, it still should be a strike because that's a hitting count. You're supposed to swing the bat. You know, those kind of things. Like, I think that most of the mistakes fall into the category of this is what should be a mistake, or what may be a historically allowable mistake.
I don't want mistakes.
But they're all over the place. The one thing about baseball we have on other sports is that the mistakes that are made in baseball rarely affect the outcome of the game because there's so much other stuff going on. And we talk about them getting the thing they get wrong the most is the ball and strike. And the truth is, they call the first pitch a ball when it should have been a strike. And what happens on the second pitch? The guy hits a ground out. It didn't really matter that he got it wrong. Most of the time it doesn't.
I guess that's an interesting way of looking at it. Ow, god damn it. Sorry to stub my toe.
Yeah. No, I'm just looking at what the guy said. The guy saying the lag's easily removed, and I love it. It's like, yeah, the truth is, like, the real reason why the lag was there is because they did this dumb thing where they relayed it through an iPhone app that they wrote. It's probably all that. So, anything else that went on that you that was of note during your illness?
I mean, I watched a lot of baseball. That's about it, man. I mean,
there was something about the Giants that I was gonna bring up.
I feel bad because I'm basically hijacking your show to kind of fill in the things that are on the weekend. We talked about minor leagues because in the league that I am the manager of, the commissioner of, we did our minor league draft. And I don't know, do you have any dynasty leagues that you're in where you do minor league stuff?
Yeah, I actually just finished one. I was in like a mid-season league. I'm in Chappie's Dynasty League.
And so it's like we have 20-man minor leagues, so we're most of the guys that everybody's heard of, the Fernando Tatises and the Gavin Luxes and the Forrest Whitleys of the world are already owned somewhere. And the question is, what do you do afterwards? And so I wanted to talk about it, but we only wound up having like 8 minutes to do it. So I put together like rules and some tips, and I just wanted to go over that, and you can ask me questions that you think of. I just want to go over this so it's on record somewhere.
Go for it.
Put it out to my guys. So these are the 4 rules that I wrote down. It's like the first one is don't panic. There's 3,000 minor leaguers that you can choose from, right? It's like it's a lot. Just live with it. You're going to get a lot wrong. Don't worry about it too much, right? That's number 2. Accept that you're going to get things wrong. The third thing is know what you're looking for, and the fourth thing is don't regret your picks afterwards. Because people, I've seen like people just go nuts at these things on both ends. Like I literally had a guy in the Dynasty League quit the league in the middle of it because he didn't know what to do after like the fourth. You had like a startup Dynasty draft where you have to make like 15 picks. It's like,
sure.
Who is the 366th best guy? And so I was going to say to people, it's like you should know what you're looking for, right? And when you draft in a minor league, you're only really looking for 2 things, right? You're looking for the potential next superstar or the potential next excellent trade chip, and you realize that half the guys you pick aren't going to make this. So it's one of those things where, like in a regular draft, when you're drafting at the beginning of the season, a lot of guys that are pundits in the fantasy world will say, don't believe the hype, right? You sort of want to pick the hype players because those are the guys that you can trade. You might be able to deep dive and find, a Patrick Marino or something and go, this guy's going to be a stud one day, but no one cares until he does it, But if you pick up,
yep.
We just had the minor league draft. If you're drafting any of the first 3 guys that came out in the draft this year, Bobby Witt, Adley Rutschman, Andrew Vaughn, they're going to be tradable. Or the international guys like Marco Luciano or Jason Dominguez.
I love the international guys. Those are always my favorite, man, because those are always the guys you can get. They're so young. They're always projects. They're usually, signed at 16, 17 years old, and it's going to be a good 5 years before they're going to be up. But what it says to me, if they're anywhere on the prospect radar, they got a chance to be a high-ranking prospect. So I've always had a soft spot for international type guys when I'm drafting things like that.
And then kind of the tip that I was going to say, two tips about the international guys is one is the general rule is that you're not going to know all the players, so you kind of have to look to the experts to tell you who's good and who's bad. But if you look at the experts, they're the most wrong about international players. They either put them way too high or way too low. Because they just don't have as much data when it comes to that. I was looking at like Fernando Tatis. You think he's pretty good? Like the year his international signee, he was like the number 26 signee out of the international thing. Now there were some good names on there the same year, like Acuna and stuff, but there wasn't 26 guys, right? So it's good. It's a good place to hit a home run is in the international market because they'll get things wrong, but at the same time they'll get things wrong the other way. They'll get too hyped over a guy.
Yeah, so sometimes it happens. It really does. The prospect game is like you said. You're either looking for somebody that is going to be a stud or something is going to be a commodity that you can trade.
Right. That's it. Then I say that when you're drafting, you should draft with a strategy, and there's basically only 3 strategies. Anything else is, and most people just do the one strategy. Most people just draft best available, and there's nothing wrong with that because that means that you're going to have theoretically the best guy, right? Some people will draft fill to need. Like they've just graduated a bunch of pitchers or traded up, so they're going to draft more pitchers to make up for it. That happens, and I usually do mine on a system where I do it by age. I instead of thinking on my team, I want X number of pitchers, X number of outfielders. I think I want X number of 22-year-olds, X number of 20-year-olds, X number of 19-year-olds. I want to have some people graduating all the time because I want to compete every year, And I think that people who play Dynasty can get really bogged down in trying to build the best farm team ever, not realizing that the guy that pays absolutely no attention have this thing. Like going through a draft. I just went through a draft, right? 16 team draft. The guy that drafted in the 6th spot, right? He actually said, I can't be there those days. I'm going on vacation. Just give me the default pick. And we use the default pick as being the minor league, the minor league draft. Right. This is what we wound up getting, right? Just by being the default pick. He had 5 picks. He got, the first round, he got J.J. Bleday. Second round, he got Brett Beatty. Third round, he got George Kirby. Fourth round, he got Michael Toglia. And the 5th round, he got Cody Hosey. That's a pretty good draft, considering he didn't do anything. I think Bleday out of the draft is probably the best power hitter in the group. The best hitter is Vaughn. The best all player is Rutschman. The guy with the highest upside is Witt. But Bleday, 2 years ago at like the Cape Cod League where they played with Wood Bats, he led the league in home runs with 9, and they only played like 21 games or something. That's pretty impressive. That guy's got some real power.
Agreed.
And then Brett Beatty showed similar power, though he was a bit of a he's a guy that had a big jump in his final year. And Cody Hosey is doing real well in the minors out there, and Michael Toglia is, you can do worse than drafting Colorado's potential first baseman of the future, and that's just the thing. Whereas everyone thinks they know better. So then the question is, what do you draft from, right? And so when you have a draft situation, the big pile of guys that everyone's going to be talking about are going to be the guys that were in this year's draft. But you also have international guys, which we talked about. There's also existing players, that are a couple years on there. And, there's that saying that there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. You've probably heard that. The truth is, that's not true, but pitching prospects are harder to judge by a long way because there's just so many intangibles.
Yeah, I was going to comment earlier when you were talking about that I definitely I've always been scared of putting any stock in pitching, especially flamethrowers coming to the draft, etc. I forget what the goddamn kid's name was. He pitched for the Marlins. He was like their number one overall pick a couple years back. And I
Oh,
took him in a league. And he was throwing like 105, and then now he like fizzled. I don't even think he ever even made the majors.
yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't. His name was something like Cal Crick, but it wasn't Cal Crick.
Yeah, I can't remember his
It was something
goddamn
else
name
about.
either.
But generally speaking, that's what you. I mean, when you're drafting a pitcher, the thing that is knowable is the speed, and so if you look at all stats in the world, most guys that throw 90, most guys that throw faster than 95 on average are going to be better pitchers. You know, it's just people hit more poorly once you get above 95 miles an hour. You know, and it doesn't mean that they're going to be great pitchers, but you know, it takes something special to come up to the majors with Kyle Hendricks kind of stuff and be a productive pitcher, or Dale Keuchel's kind of stuff. You know, so I would rather, like, in this draft I was looking here, like, you know, I needed pitchers, but I waited on pitchers because I was thinking that the guys that have high speed would be available later than I thought. You know, Daniel Espino was drafted fairly late, was picked pretty late. Where is he here in the draft? It's nice I can never... Oh, he was the 24th overall pick, right? The guy that the Cubs took, people were saying they were a little bit shocked. Ryan Jensen throws real good. Jackson Rutledge, who's probably the best guy of the bunch, was the 17th overall. I thought that I was going to be able to get a pitcher like that later. Just I didn't, because of the nature of the way the other guys drafted too, because they're thinking the same thing. Because if a guy can throw 99, I mean, everybody's thinking that Michael Kopech is going to be a great pitcher for the White Sox, and the only thing that they really know about him is he throws 100 miles an hour. And that's the same thing that's true about like Dylan Cease and a lot of these other guys. You know, that kind of speed makes people sit up and take notice, because statistically, if you have that kind of speed, normally you'll be pretty good over time, right?
No, I agree. I wish we'd get away so much from concentrating on velocity and more concentrating on teaching these guys how to pitch at a younger age. I think it would improve the game.
I think so too, but that's actually like one of the tips I was going to say. Like, I went into this draft needed pitching, right? And once you got past like the first 7 or 8 pitchers that are probably like the key prospects at pitcher, I would much rather draft from the back end of last year's first round and on the curve than this year's first round, because you've got a year under their belt. You see things; they're closer to being pro players. So rather than, you know, drafting like the Ethan Smalls or the, you know, the Brennan Malones, Dre Jamesons, who are the guys this year, you look at, if you go back 1 year, there are some pretty good names that are available in a lot of leagues who have shown things, you know. And I actually drafted who did I draft? I think I would know this off the top of my head, and I don't. I drafted Chris Bubich of Kansas City. The Kansas City last year drafted 2 guys right at the CBB picks, Chris Bubich and Jackson Cower, and they're both good players. And I'd rather take those guys than literally anybody in this draft on the pitching side. You know, and then
This wasn't a very deep draft in general.
It was good on the hitting. It was decent on the hitting side. I can find something to like about almost all these guys. You know, Braden Shoemake looks pretty good. Bryson Stott, Keone Cavaco, you know, Josh Young is a power hitter. He got picked in there. It's the pitching that's there. This is the first year in the draft that, you know, there wasn't a pitcher in the top 5 picks. You know, only one in the top 10 picks. You know, that's pretty low. It's light picking out.
Understood.
And I'll put it this way too. Like, if you look at the draft that we went through, because I know I sent you a copy of it. One of the guys in our league who lives in Europe, in the second round, he actually drafted Kumar Rocker, who's playing in college for another couple of years. And that's probably the best pitcher in the draft. And the truth is, if you can get away with that, do it, because
that's allowed.
In ours, you can pick anybody who's not playing in the pros. I mean, you can pick high school guys. You can pick whatever.
That's insanity.
You know, so you can do. I mean, there is a little bit of a penalty to it. It's basically we use a cap system with the minor leagues where you only have $30 on your cap for the minors, and so generally speaking, people in the minors don't accrue. but if your guy doesn't get into the Yahoo database within a year, then every year he goes up $1. And if you go over 30, then